A common complaint when it comes to a many TTRPGs is the spell slot system, and not that it is the worst in the world. There are definitely worse ways to run and use the idea of spells, but quite simply, spell slots have a lot of things wrong with them, leave a lot to be desired, and that is where DC20 comes to save the day. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If you don't know me, I'm Blzane, the host of this YouTube channel, obviously, and lately we've been talking a lot about DC20 because I am so excited for it to get to its full release. Is a system, if you don't know, created by the Dungeon Coach. It just recently finished its Kickstarter campaign, and boy is it so good. And today I wanted to talk about their spell system, which uses mana points, which is just, I believe in just about every single way a better system than spell slots, and it's not close. Let's talk about why. So, the mana point system, what is it, how does it work, what makes it different, and frankly, what makes it better? Well, the way spells work in DC20 is pretty simple. As a spellcaster, just like a lot of other TTRPGs, you do have your set of free spells, you have your cantrips, and you're going to have your regular spells that are going to cost 1, sometimes 2 action points, which again, if you don't remember, you haven't seen the other video, go check it out, but you get 4 action points on your turn, so you still have plenty of room to make cool, fun decisions. And then whenever you do these, some of these higher level spells will also require a mana point to use. So to start off simple, I'm going to go ahead and put this Firebolt cantrip up on screen because this is probably one of the most simple cantrips you can use, and it's my easiest way to kind of show off. So if you didn't know, in DC20 they actually measure by spaces instead of feet, which is just simpler, right? Like, yeah, sure, it's, I guess, kind of like cool mentally to be like, oh yeah, I can run 30 feet in a turn, but while for certain TTRPGs veterans, it's easy to be like, oh, 30 feet, 60 spaces. Like, you just have that locked in. It's a lot easier, especially for newcomers, when, as you can see, the range is in something like spaces, because you just simply go, oh, okay, 10 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, that's how far it can shoot, right? A lot simpler, a lot easier. In terms of cantrips, almost all of them, at least to my knowledge, that have been released so far are going to be just 1 AP, not going to have a mana attached to them. So as a sorcerer or wizard or whatever, any spellcaster, once you run out of mana, it doesn't mean you're screwed in this system. You can still cast spells, just very light, not as strong ones. It kind of explains its basic spell attack. Now, one thing I really like is that it does talk about at the bottom, as you can see, the cantrip passive, which these are things that I very much appreciate, is it lets you really combo different things. So this Firebolt cantrip is a part of the Fire and Flames kind of pre-made spell list to use. And as you can see, if a creature is burning, you're going to get 1 more damage. And different spells are going to have things like this, where it's like, hey, if you're doing a good job of kind of like really leaning into a style, right? So you're a fire mage, right? Something like that. It just helps you become a, stronger version of yourself, being able to do more damage to burning things. And then you can see below that, there's also the kind of fire orb, we'll call it variant, I suppose. But as you can see, a flickering flame appears in your hand. The flame can remain there for 10 minutes and harms neither you nor your equipment. The flame sheds bright light in a 5-space radius. The spell ends early if you dismiss it for free, blah, 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 blah. Things like this are really cool, because basically what this is, right, is it gives you a fun little light spell that is built into the Firebolt cantrip. So it's kind of nice, because for simple spells that have their like niche use cases, you don't have to waste a whole like known spell thing on them. Rather, it's just built in as like, hey, you know how to shoot a firebolt, so it makes sense that you're also able to just kind of create and control this little fire thing in your hand that helps produce light, right? It doesn't really help you in combat much at all, or at least it can if you're using it that way, but it's meant as a good thing if you're, in a dark dungeon or diving into a cave or something like that. So really fun, really good cantrip system. We love that. Now let's move on to kind of our next step up, which is going to be another cantrip, but this one's going to be the Minor Flame Blade. Again, it's 1 AP, range of self, and you can read all about it, whatever, but what I want to talk about are the mana point enhancements. Okay, now this is what I think makes this system really, really fun. Is similar to kind of how the Fire Orb thing was, where it kind of gives your spell, or in this case your cantrip, another use case, right? So it's not just like dead if you're outside of combat or whatever. With things like Minor Flame Blade, not only are they useful in combat already by themselves, but you can enhance them. So if you want to, let's say, spend a mana point, you can then add an additional +2 fire damage to the attack check. So by spending some mana, you're just automatically enhancing the amount of damage you deal. Now, I'm going to have a separate video talking about how damage works in the system, so I know +2 damage doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot for the system, just trust me, we'll have a video discussing that. Or you could do Flame Bound, where you can spend 1 MP to add +1 fire damage to the target and a second target. Now, one thing you may be thinking is like, well, as a new character, you know, is this not busted if I just spam all of my MP into one attack and then guaranteed like insta-kill a boss? No, because that's not something you can do. A lot of starting characters will have, I believe, around 6 MP, you know, give or take some, don't quote me on the exact number, but you can't dump all 6 MP into one spell, at least not yet. What you can do is spend up to your MP spending limit, because as you level up, that limit is going to increase, and so eventually you can do Flame Strike and Flame Bound. But in the beginning, whenever you're doing Minor Flame Blade, like especially as a level 1 or level 2 character, you can only add one of these MP enhancements. So something to think about of, hey, not only do you get a fun, again, like we've talked about many a time, creative use of your spells to be able to enhance them and customize them to your heart's desire, but it's still limited in that as you grow and get stronger as a spellcaster, you're going to be able to enhance these spells further and further. Very clean, very simple system. Let's get into the, you know, they're not called leveled spells, but leveled spells. So let's go ahead and discuss another spell, Burning Flames, this one being kind of a leveled spell inherently, and as you'll see, it now costs 2 AP plus 1 MP simply to cast. To cast it, that is what it requires, and it's because, as you can read, it's pretty powerful. Now again, I love that. I love this system so much, because with Burning Flames alone, you get a line spell, a cone spell, or a sphere spell, depending on how you want to use it. And you'll notice with these spells as we go through them, and I'm not going to talk about every spell, but again, the goal of this system is to be able to run your character and control what you're doing how you want to do it. You don't have to waste 3 different spell slots, or 3 different known spells rather, to have like a fireball and a burning hands and a lightning bolt for a line attack, right? You just kind of get it all in one and you pick what you use, which is just so much more simplified in the sense of you're not looking at how 3 different spells work and interact. You just have the one that you customize and change. And again, as you can see at the bottom, this one also has mana point enhancements. So to kind of give an example of one spell being many, you have your kind of pseudo burning hands when you have your cone effect, right? Because you spit these burning flames out of your hands in this cone effect in front of you. Or you can turn it into a baby fireball. By doing the range mana point enhancement, you can put the origin point of the spell to about 15 points away from you, and then have it be the sphere. And now you have a pseudo fireball that you're spitting out somewhere. That's so sick. That's so sick. I also like the flavor of that. To me, it really leans into that kind of fun, special idea of really controlling your magic, right? Because if I am playing another TTRPG and I cast a basic fireball, we love that, right? It's cool, it's classic, it's so good, a little busted in something like D&D, but besides the point. In a system like this, you have your burning flames, and as the spellcaster, you get to contort your flames and control them how you see fit, which I just think is so fun. And for those that are really into that roleplay aspect and really into that, kind of fantasy of getting to control the elements around you, if you're kind of going the elemental side of things, this lets you do that at a level that a lot of other TTRPGs don't, because in those, you just do what the spell says. And that's kind of how it goes. There's not much customization to it. But in this, you take your spell and you do what you want. It's so simple and so clean. And again, you can see like range and all that's kind of typical, nothing too crazy, but oh, it's so good. Now as for some basics that some of you may be wondering about mana, when it comes to raising your maximum mana count and how much you can have, it goes up by level. It's pretty straightforward. When it comes to regaining your MP, it is gained at the end of a long rest. Pretty straightforward. Again, nothing too crazy there. And then when it comes to using mana outside of combat, which this is something I really appreciate, the cost of whatever spell you're using, if you are outside of a combative setting, is -1. So doing something like a leveled spell when you're not in the midst of combat would actually not cost you any mana at all. You could just do it. However, if you wanted to enhance it, then yes, you would still be paying that, +1 MP to do that. And something to acknowledge is that you still have your mana limit on top of it. So if your mana limit to enhance something is 1, you cannot spend 2 because the -1 brings you down to 1. You can still only go up to your limit of 1, and then it brings it back down to 0 after doing that. So that's kind of how outside of combat works, which I appreciate. Again, it lets you roleplay a little more freely and not feel like you're burning your resources. because that's something that can feel really bad, and especially spell slot systems. It can be really rough when like there's a cool, fun, niche roleplay spell that you want to use, but you're like, oh, well, I'll have to use a second or third level spell slot, and then if I get into combat and we need these spell slots and I don't have them, well, it just feels bad. Whereas now it's like, oh, well, you know, you have your MP, and you don't have to use it. You can just do the, you know, it's -1, so you can do just about any leveled spell you want. Again, if you're adding effects to it, then maybe. An example that I will actually kind of use from Dungeon Coach that I've seen in another video is for something like charm effects. Obviously, there are spells that have like their charming effects in this game. Whenever you use something like that, a lot of their kind of base levels will have a similar thing to other charming spells where whenever the effect ends, the person will know that they were previously charmed. However, if you want to spend like an extra MP or something on top of that leveled spell, you can make that charm effect stronger, and now when they come out of it, they may not know. But it costs you some of your resources. So it'll be things like that, where you can enhance those roleplay spells if you're really needing them for a crucial roleplay moment, whereas if you're not needing them for a crucial roleplay moment, you don't have to burn the resources to use it. So there you have it. That is how the mana system in DC20 works. I'm so excited about it. I think spellcasters as a whole are way better off with this system than something like spell slots. Maybe it's a little bit of personal preference, but I just feel like it works better in terms of roleplay, in terms of game mechanics, pretty much all of the above. And then if you have any other questions, let me know down in the comments below, or maybe you disagree. Let me know as well. Let me know why you think spell slots might be better than something like a mana pool system. And hey, if you like the content, feel free to subscribe. We're going to be talking about DC20 all the way through full release and hopefully beyond. I think this system's amazing. I would love to see it grow, and I'm hoping I can help it grow in any way possible. And I will see you all on the next one, where we're going to talk about another resource system, this time for marshals. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.